No problem. Thanks for having me.
Hello, 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 soul friends, and welcome to this episode of Shine Your Soul Light podcast, where we are sharing the voices of visionaries who are leading in the golden age. My name is Mary Gooden. I will be your host. Truly, my mission is to support others in aligning and defining with their ever evolving mission. I do so with courage and authenticity as the heart of humanity. I ask that we take a moment of stillness and silence to close the eyes and open the heart. May we anchor in love, compassion, and grace. And may we receive wisdom, guidance, and inspiration. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Joining me on this fabulous episode today, we are in the extraordinary excitement of Potapalooza. I am so happy to introduce you all to Elisa Boogarets. She is an inspirational speaker, a published author, a certified life coach. She helps professionals prioritize themselves and to reclaim their time. Oh, boom. I love all this energy and freedom so that they can do what they want to do in their lives. Elisa understands the challenges faced by people who constantly put others before themselves. And her mission is to guide clients to make positive change towards a life of self-prioritization and empowered living. Elisa, thanks so much for being here. Like I said, I know that you have a lot to share with us today, but if you would share with the audience where you're joining from, and in your own words, what it's like for you to have this ignited this fire within you and show others, lead others in empowering their own lives.
Thank you so much for that amazing intro. I'm so happy to be here. Yes, I'm in Vancouver, Canada. And sorry, what was the question again?
Oh, just share with us how what it's like for you to be ignited in this empowering life that you've chosen and that you share with others.
It feels so amazing I feel like sometimes in life and with society and family and everything, kind of feel like I get sort of like pushed around a little bit. Sometimes I feel like you're kind of being bumped. And when and think about my coaching business and wanting to help people and like with transformation to prioritize themselves and make them feel really secure and build their self-confidence, it just really grounds me and makes me so calm and just feels so good. And I feel very like sturdy in it being the right thing. There's no more of that kind of like, oh, like do this, do that, do this, do that. And it's like, oh no, this is it. And it's so lovely.
It sounds like landing in your wholeness, landing at home, which is what the majority of your clientele is looking for. These professionals, these 9-to-5ers, right? These entrepreneurs, they're looking for this place where all this movement can pause. Because I was there once too, and that you can actually feel like you've landed somewhere in stillness, in wholeness, in balance, right?
Yeah.
I love that. Tell us a little bit more about what led you in this place of discovering that for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, you cut out for a second there. I missed what you said in the beginning.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah, telling us a little bit more about how you've discovered, like how you empowered your own life and how that transformation took place for you.
Yeah, it was back in 2004 when I think it was really the first time that I kind of gave myself like that choice to be empowered. And I was sitting in the living room of my friend's apartment, and it was her birthday party, and she'd just gotten back from a backpacking trip. And she brings out her photo album, and I noticed that my heart, it sank a little bit. I was excited to see the pictures. I was excited to hear all about the trip, but I was also like a little bit jealous because going traveling and backpacking was something that I'd wanted to do for years, but I never had. And another friend had been promising that we were going to go together, but she'd been promising me that for about 5 years. So I wasn't so sure it was going to happen anymore. And at the time, I thought that there's no way that I could go. I had too much responsibility. I had a full-time job. I had a mortgage. I just bought a brand new car. I was going to school at night. But the truth is that I wasn't happy. Like life was good. I felt like I didn't have anything to complain about. But I really wanted to go traveling and explore the world. And like so many people, I was just doing the daily grind. Same thing, day in, day out. And I was doing all the shoulds, right? Because like those are the things I was supposed to do. Go get a steady job, buy a home. And I couldn't help but think like, is this it? I was in my early 20s. I was like, this can't be it. What about all the things that I want to do? But I wasn't sure that I had confidence to change my entire life and leave and go traveling. And another friend of the party, actually, who is Michelle, who is like the co-host of Podapalooza, she was at the party. I've known her since we were teenagers, and she was going backpacking the following year to Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji. And I was just so inspired by her because she had been traveling before. And I was like, and so I went up to her and I was like, hey, like, do you think I could maybe come with you? And she was like, yeah, sure. Michelle, she's like so kind. She was just like, yeah, like, let's talk about it over coffee. And that night, after the party, I went home and I finally gave myself that permission to travel and explore the world. I really sort of sat myself down and I was like, you've been such a good girl, Lisa. Like, you're doing all the right things, but like, don't wait for somebody else to tell you that it's okay to do what you want. Give yourself that permission, because I knew that I deserved happiness, right? And I knew that I just needed the self-confidence to just go after it. So said yes to Michelle and booked the flights and made this 7-month plan. And I literally packed up my life and I went, and I ended up being abroad for 11 years. And to date, I've traveled 53 countries.
That's amazing. And it started out as just this little seed. I want to circle back because it's such a big piece of the human experience, we'll call it, is I've got the job and I've got the car and I've got the thing, and I'm still not, I've got all the things that everybody said you should be satisfied with, and I'm not. But you feel bad, so you don't do anything about it, right? You feel bad, like, I have all the things that people want, so you almost feel bad doing something about it. But I also too love, because you share the same messages as me, you gave yourself permission to do something that felt passionate in you also, and to shift into that, because the job and the car and the 2 dogs and the 2 cats and the swimming pool and all that was really started out as just somebody else's dream, but it became a model for what you should hope to achieve in this lifetime.
Right.
For a lot of us, people they're putting their passion, their purpose, they're actually putting their life on hold for this outdated dream that was somebody else's. And again, I'm going to invite you, just like you've invited us, Elisa, give yourself permission. Even if you just say that right now to yourself, I give myself permission, and let that land. Yeah. That's the first step. Like we have to give ourselves permission to say, yay for all of this, but now I want this. So thank you for sharing. What a wonderful experience to share. 11 years. Wow.
Yeah.
7-month go.
Yeah. I know the original trip was only supposed to be like a 4-month backpacking trip. And I was like, oh, I'll be back. 11 years. Yeah.
Well, this is a prime example of how you've taken your own empowerment and created a life that you desire, and have taken the invitations, which I love to share with my audiences. Like, just take the step and see what happens. Something's going to happen anyway.
Yeah. Right.
It's going to be feel good or bad, even though I don't believe that there's any good or bad, but it's either going to feel like I'm holding myself back or I'm enlightening myself up. So I love that story. Would you share?
And I even think as well, like, with that whole, like, give yourself permission and let that sit. And even if you don't know what you want, because I think some people don't even know what they want, because you're right, we've been so conditioned, like, well, these were all the things I was told I wanted, and now, but it's not sitting right, it's not feeling well, and I think that's one thing that really got me into this, was that breaks my heart. Like, I've talked to people and they're like, I haven't been asked that question. I don't know what I want. I have no idea. And I was like, oh, okay, like, I can help you do that. I can help you figure that out. But sometimes it's like, well, how do you figure that out? And you can just be like, sometimes just asking yourself that question, like, well, what do I want with my life? Like, what does make me happy? And you don't have to find the answer right away, because our brains are these amazing things, right? You just ask yourself that, And it'll come, it may take like a week. It may take a few hours, may happen right away, but like eventually something will happen and you'll be like, oh, that's the thing. Right. And it'll come to you. And so I think sometimes like giving yourself that time and that space and letting it sit for it to really authentically come through and not have any should or pressures. Yeah. So
I love
be
that
gentle with
piece.
yourself in that. Yeah.
And for those of you that are listening that still feel like patience is something that you're working on aligning with every second, because I heard myself saying that a lot, like, I don't know. Even yesterday, probably it would want to come up. So there was parts of my life where I was saying that and I was like, well, you should. So if you're anything like me and that piece is like, well, you should know. I started using I surrender. I just let it in. I just let
Yes.
it in
Surrender.
because
Yeah.
sometimes, and it wasn't every time, but sometimes I would hear myself say that I didn't know something. And there would be this part of me like, well, there would be a little medicine in there, anger, like, well, you should know, or it would be frustration. So that's where I just, again, food for thought. Most of us probably aren't like that, but with me, I was like, you should. And so I was like, oh, I surrender. But that was my feminine, like, let it be playful and easy. But I love that because you're right. We don't always know. And we don't always have to know. We just have to be willing to explore it, right?
Yes, yes, and just be open to it. And it's amazing, like when you just kind of open yourself up to that possibility. Like you were saying, yeah, like that should, that kind of like that tight sort of gripping of like, I have to know everything, or yeah, I should know something, and just kind of just give it some space. Yeah, just surrender, just kind of, yeah. And things open up. It's amazing.
It really does. You're right. I mean, I don't know why they have been I know why they have been keeping this a secret from us now. Because for each and every one of us that is waking up in every moment of every day, it's adding a vibration, a frequency of joy and fun and freedom back to the world. And for those that aren't wanting to be in alignment with that, they're not very happy about it. But as some would hear and some would say, the light wins.
Yeah.
Joy wins. I would love to hear a little bit more. So taking that trip, right? Finally deciding to choose your legacy life. What was that like relationally for you? I imagine that maybe things shifted relationally, or you probably being overseas for so long, or being away for 11 years probably enlightened you to a whole new set of culture and friends.
Did absolutely. And it was really interesting to watch that kind of transition. And I remember when so I lived in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, and I lived in London, England. And when I moved to London, like that was sort of where my rock bottom was. And from there, it was so beautiful because I got to rebuild my life from the ground up. And I got to really, really choose who I wanted to be and how I wanted to show up in the world. And through that, I made these like amazing relationships. And through that, I was able to see some of the relationships, that I had back home, and friendships that, I'd had for a long time, that our lives weren't aligned anymore. And even some of them were a bit toxic to me, even, and I could see, I was like, oh, because the people that I surround myself with now, the friends that I chose, which was interesting because moving there by myself, it's kind of like you want to make friends, but I was able to choose my friends because there was no, like attachment. I've known you for so long, went to the same high school or whatever. And that was really cool because if I met somebody and hung out with them a bit, and I was like, oh, you know what, you're not my person. That's okay. I can just let that fade away. And I opened up for new relationships. And I did end up actually, like, when I moved back home, I kind of got wrapped up in that life again, and with those sort of like toxic friends and in that lifestyle. And I remember just being like, oh no, how did I get back? I've been gone for 11 years, but here I am, like, boom, right back into it. And I really had to like do that. And I had to like step away, and I let quite a few friends go. And I had to, like, with those relationships, I just realized that we just weren't aligned anymore. They weren't my people anymore. And maybe they never really were, but it's just kind of the way it was. And it really shifted that. And it was, I feel like I was really lucky because I had that huge separation. It was on the other side of the world. And that gave me that space to be like, what do I want? Who do I want to hang out with? What type of healthy, conscious relationships do I want in my life? And able to see them and be like, yes, you know, and create it for myself. I think that was really awesome, because I think if I was still, you know, if I never left, maybe I wouldn't have been given that space to think that way. You know, it would just like, well, like, and maybe it would have been a bit harder.
Yeah, it's true that, sometimes we have to get away from our common space to grow, because otherwise we just keep seeing the same thing. And, it may even feel comfortable seeing the same thing. I think we've all gotten to, we're friends because it's comfortable, or we have been for so long, but not really looking outside of, you know, what could I be missing by just tasting something else or playing somewhere else. There's so many amazing people in the world, really. And they come and go. I talk about that a lot
Mhm.
because I feel like, one of the biggest holdbacks or parts that keep us from being all of us, or keeps us small, is because we're trying to stay in satisfaction with other people around us. And we don't want to
Yeah.
rock the boat, or they'll never understand, so I'll never do it, or things like that. Communication it always comes down to that one word, right? We've heard it our whole lives. You've got to be willing to communicate.
Hmm.
You do. And first and primarily, learning to communicate with self.
Yeah.
It really makes communicating with others easier.
Yeah. Yeah. And we get, when we start to really kind of get on that path and making change for ourselves, there's this amazing paradigm that I learned. It's like when we're confronted with moving forward, we're also confronting with allowing people to stay where they are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it doesn't mean that like you're better than or anything, but like you can stay where you are, and that's okay. And this is where I'm going. And that might, it'll force the relationship to shift. And it could still stay together, stay aligned, you know, like one example I love to give is like when sort of like setting boundaries, like say, you know, you and your friend are used to going to this burger joint every week or something like that, but now you want to be healthier, or maybe you're like training to run a marathon or something, and you're like, oh, I can't do that anymore. Your relationship's forced to shift, but you could always offer an alternative. It doesn't mean the relationship has to end if that person's still important to you in your life. You know, you can be like, the relationship is shifting and it can be this way. And you can still do the burger thing, but like, I would prefer to go on a walk with you, so we can still get our friendship time together or something like that, you know? And it's just a way kind of setting that boundary to really make sure that you still stay focused on your goals and what you want, and allowing that relationship to shift, but still having it. And like, because we can get so threatened sometimes when people change and what that's going to do to the relationship. And so it's kind of, and sometimes like an experience that I had was like, I'm going to allow you to stay where you are and I'm going over here, and actually that tie kind of breaks, and that's okay too.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's all really okay. I was listening
Yeah.
to something the other day, and that was the last thing. Just so everybody knows, it's all going to be okay. It really is.
It really is.
Right. Oh, Elisa, it's been such a joy talking to you. And I thank you for sharing all this amazing parts of your life, of how you've just kept stepping in and empowering yourself to choose the things that feel most aligned for you and desirable, and taking the lead on that to share these gifts and these knowings and these strategies with others. It's a big deal. And I think oftentimes, even as coaches ourselves, we don't recognize it. So I give you big kudos for doing the work that you got to do to be where you are and who you are right now. I would love two more things I have for you. How can our audience reach out to you, connect with you if they want to know more and hear more? What is the best way to do that?
Yeah, you can go to my website, which is inspirationbyelisa.com. That's my company name, Inspiration by Elisa. And also you can find me on Instagram or Facebook with that too, at inspirationbyelisa.com.
Super. I'm going to have that in the show notes.
Perfect.
Inspiration by ELISA.com, friends, in case you missed it.
Yes.
Don't worry, it's in the show notes if you're doing some like cookie making or the things that I do when I listen to podcasts, dancing around the kitchen. But I appreciate you. My final question is always a fun one. What is one word, Lisa, that describes how it feels for you to lead in this time of love and truth and transformation?
Um, think my word would be calm.
Mm.
Feels very calm. I love it. It's like, yeah, it just has this, there's so much, I feel like other emotions and excitement and amazingness, yeah, and love, and but in my center, it feels very calm.
I love that word that you've claimed it all is calm, and each and every one of us can do that the same. We can claim it as the most peaceful and calming environment that we've ever existed in. I know, because I know what you're saying. I know exactly what you're saying. So I appreciate you for being here. And
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This has been
welcome
great.
so much. I appreciate you. I'm so glad that we got this chance to do it. And for those that are listening, I appreciate you too. Until we get to share in this beautiful and collective energy once again, I say give yourself permission, right? To keep shining your light, keep sharing your truth, and find yourself in this place of calm. All right. Bye for now, everyone. Thank you so much.